Unaware of his secret identity, she slept with a masked stranger and got pregnant with Triplet. This isn't just another love story. This is something you feel. Something that might just remind you of someone. Something, or maybe even yourself. So don't go anywhere. Every second is for you. Hello, my beautiful sisters. My strong, soft-hearted, loyal, Love and Twilight's family. How are you today? I mean that for real. How are you holding up? Before we begin, allow me to speak this prayer over you. Dear Heavenly Father, I lift up every amazing woman watching this right now. Bless her heart with peace that doesn't shake. Fill her days with unexpected joy, and give her the strength to keep shining, even when no one notices. Let her feel seen, loved, protected, and more than enough. Let her know she's never alone. Amen. Now, family, yesterday's video didn't get as many likes and comments, and you know I noticed these things because you matter to me. So if you've ever smiled, cried, or paused to think because of a story here, go ahead and show a little love. Like this video, drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, and say, I'm here and I feel this. We're chasing a dream together. 2,000 subscribers in just 6 days. It's bold, I know, but so are you. So let's begin this one with love. Let's feel every twist and turn. Let's root for the underdog, cry for the broken-hearted, and maybe, just maybe, believe in love again. Welcome to Love and Twilights, where your heart always has a home. Let's go, my beautiful ones. This story is for you.
At 32, Olivia Reynolds had built a reputation as a relentless truth seeker. Working for the New York Sentinel, she specialized in exposing corporate corruption and championing the underdog. Her apartment walls displayed numerous journalism awards, yet her latest investigation into pharmaceutical price-fixing had hit roadblocks at every turn. "They're protecting someone powerful," she told her editor, Marco, tossing a folder onto his desk. "Every source goes quiet the moment I mention Vitali's pharmaceuticals." Marco leaned back in his chair. Maybe it's time to change tactics. The Renaissance Charity Gala is tonight. Every corporate bigwig in town will be there. Olivia frowned. "I wasn't invited." "You are now." Marco slid an envelope across his desk. "The paper bought a table. Wear something fancy, mingle with the elite, and maybe you'll find a new lead." That evening, Olivia stood before her mirror, hardly recognizing herself. The midnight blue gown hugged her curves, while the silver mask adorned with delicate crystals transformed her from dogged reporter to mysterious beauty. Her chestnut hair cascaded in loose waves down her back. Despite her glamorous appearance, Olivia felt like an imposter. Born to working-class parents in Brooklyn, she'd worked 2 jobs to pay for journalism school. The glittering world of Manhattan's elite was foreign territory. "Remember why you're here," she whispered to her reflection, tucking a recorder into her clutch. "It's just another assignment." 8 floors above the Manhattan skyline, Dominic Blackwood gazed at the city through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office. At 36, he had transformed his father's struggling company into a global empire. Blackwood Enterprises now dominated industries from technology to real estate, making him one of the youngest self-made billionaires in America. His assistant, James, entered with a tuxedo bag. "Your costume for tonight's event, sir." Dominic nodded without turning. "Thank you. Any updates on the merger proposal?" "The board unanimously approved it. But there's another matter. Ms. Westbrook has called 3 times today." Dominic sighed. Victoria Westbrook, heiress to a pharmaceutical fortune and his ex-fiancée, had been relentless since their breakup 2 months ago. "Tell her I'm unavailable." After James left, Dominic opened a hidden wall safe and removed an intricately carved wooden box. Inside lay a black mask with gold detailing his escape route. For the past year, he'd attended select high society events masked and under a false name, seeking moments of normalcy away from the scrutiny of being Dominic Blackwood. The weight of his empire felt especially heavy tonight. The Vitalis Pharmaceuticals acquisition had proceeded despite internal concerns about their research practices. His board assured him everything was legitimate, but doubt lingered. "One night without being Dominic Blackwood," he murmured, lifting the mask. "One night of freedom." The Renaissance Hotel ballroom transformed into a dreamscape of crystal chandeliers, flowing champagne, and society's elite hidden behind elaborate masks. Olivia circulated cautiously, eavesdropping on conversations, searching for useful information. "Quite the gathering," a deep voice remarked beside her. Olivia turned to find a tall man in an impeccably tailored tuxedo wearing a striking black and gold mask. His presence commanded attention without demanding it. "Almost feels like stepping into another century," she replied, assessing him. Whoever he was, he carried himself with unmistakable confidence. That's the appeal of masquerades, isn't it? For one night, we can be whoever we wish to be. His smile revealed perfect teeth. "And who are you tonight?" she asked. "Just a man enjoying beautiful company," he answered. "Call me Michael." Olivia offered her hand. "Sophia," she replied, using her middle name. Throughout the evening, they circled back to each other repeatedly. Between dances and champagne, Olivia forgot her mission as their conversation flowed effortlessly. Unlike the shallow small talk filling the room, Michael discussed everything from ancient philosophy to modern art with genuine passion. "You're different from everyone here," he said, leading her to a secluded balcony overlooking the city lights. "How can you tell? We're all wearing masks. The mask hides your face, not your essence." His fingers brushed hers. "You observe everything, ask questions that matter. You're searching for something genuine in a room full of pretense." The night air carried the faint scent of roses as they moved closer. His lips met hers, tender yet insistent. In that moment, rational thought abandoned Olivia completely. "My hotel room is upstairs," he whispered against her ear. Every cautious instinct told Olivia to decline. Yet something about this masked stranger made her feel understood in ways no one else ever had. "Yes," she answered simply. They slipped away from the crowd, masks firmly in place, identities still concealed. In the privacy of his suite, passion overwhelmed caution as they surrendered to an unmistakable connection that transcended physical attraction. In the early morning hours, Olivia carefully extracted herself from his sleeping form. Gathering her things, she took one last look at the mysterious man who had awakened something within her. The rules of the masquerade were clear. What happened remained behind the masks, a perfect memory unspoiled by reality. Little did she know, reality would come calling in the most unexpected way. 2 months after the masquerade, Olivia sat on the edge of her bathtub, staring at the third pregnancy test she'd taken that morning. All showed the same result: positive. "This can't be happening," she whispered, placing a hand on her stomach. She had always been careful, except for that one night with the mysterious Michael. A night that had lingered in her memory despite her best efforts to focus on work. Her phone rang, Marco from the office. "Please tell me you're coming in today," he said without preamble. "The Blackwood story just got interesting. Word is they're hiding something big in that Vitalis acquisition." "I'll be there in an hour," Olivia promised, pushing her personal crisis aside. At her doctor's appointment that afternoon, the ultrasound technician's surprised expression sent a wave of anxiety through Olivia. "Is something wrong?" she asked. The technician adjusted the screen. "Nothing's wrong, but I'm detecting multiple heartbeats." "Multiple? As in?" "Triplets." "Congratulations, Ms. Reynolds." The world seemed to tilt sideways. Triplets. A single night with a man whose real name she didn't know had resulted in 3 lives growing inside her. That evening, Olivia sat in her apartment surrounded by prenatal pamphlets, her mind racing. Her modest one-bedroom could barely fit her, let alone 3 babies. Her job required late nights and unpredictable schedules. Her parents had passed away years ago, and she had no siblings to help. "I need to find him," she realized. But how? Michael had left no contact information, not even a last name. The hotel wouldn't disclose guest information, and the charity organization had no record of anyone matching his description. Olivia placed both hands on her still flat stomach. "Looks like it's just us," she whispered to her unborn children. Despite the fear and uncertainty, a surprising determination settled in her chest. She would make this work, with or without the mysterious father. "Dominic Blackwood rarely grants interviews," Marco explained, dropping a file on Olivia's desk 3 weeks later. "But somehow, you've got one tomorrow morning." Olivia looked up from her computer. "Me? Why would he agree to talk to me when he's been dodging press for years?" "Apparently, he was impressed by your exposé on tech industry labor practices. His PR team reached out specifically requesting you." Morning sickness had become Olivia's unwelcome daily companion, but she couldn't pass up this opportunity. The Blackwood interview could provide the breakthrough she needed on the Vitalis story. That night, Olivia researched everything about Dominic Blackwood. Forbes listed him as the 12th richest person in America. Orphaned at 19, he had transformed his father's failing company into a global conglomerate. Despite his wealth, he maintained a relatively private life, appearing only at select business functions and charity events. The photographs showed a handsome man with intense eyes and an expression that revealed little. Something about him seemed vaguely familiar, though Olivia couldn't place why. The next morning, Olivia stood in front of Blackwood Tower, an architectural marvel of glass and steel dominating the Manhattan skyline. Nausea threatened to overwhelm her as the elevator ascended to the top floor, but she breathed deeply, focusing on the questions she'd prepared. The executive suite featured understated luxury, hardwood floors, modern art, and panoramic views of the city. Dominic Blackwood's assistant, a polished man in his 40s, greeted her. "Ms. Reynolds, Mr. Blackwood will see you now." Dominic Blackwood stood at the window, his back to the door when Olivia entered. Tall and broad-shouldered in a perfectly tailored navy suit, he turned slowly. "Ms. Reynolds, thank you for—" His words halted abruptly as their eyes met. Recognition hit Olivia like a physical blow. Though she had never seen his face clearly, something in his eyes and the way he carried himself triggered an immediate connection to Michael from the masquerade. But that was impossible, wasn't it? "Mr. Blackwood," she managed, extending her hand professionally despite her racing heart. "Thank you for agreeing to this interview." His hesitation lasted only a fraction of a second before he took her hand. The contact sent an electric current through her body, identical to what she'd felt that night. "Please, sit," he said, his deep voice controlled but with an underlying tension. "My team tells me you're working on a story about corporate responsibility." Throughout the interview, Olivia maintained her professionalism despite the persistent feeling that something strange was happening. Dominic answered her questions with practiced ease, but his eyes kept returning to her face with an intensity that suggested he was trying to solve a puzzle. When she inquired about the Vitalis acquisition, his demeanor shifted subtly. "Vitalis has promising research that aligns with our long-term goals," he stated carefully. "There are rumors about ethical concerns regarding their testing protocols," Olivia pressed. "I assure you, Ms. Reynolds, Blackwood Enterprises conducts thorough due diligence before any acquisition." As the interview concluded, Dominic unexpectedly said, "You look familiar. Have we met before?" The question hung in the air. Should she mention the masquerade? No, she had no proof that he was Michael, and suggesting such a connection to one of the most powerful men in New York without evidence would be professional suicide. "I don't believe so, Mr. Blackwood. I have one of those faces people think they recognize." He studied her for a moment longer. "Perhaps. My assistant will show you out. Though I suspect we'll meet again soon." In the elevator, Olivia's hand trembled as she pressed the lobby button. The resemblance in mannerisms, voice, and that indefinable chemistry was too strong to be coincidence. If Dominic Blackwood was indeed her mysterious lover, what would happen when he discovered she was carrying his children? More pressing, how would this complicate her investigation into his company and Vitalis Pharmaceuticals? The personal and professional were about to collide in ways she could never have anticipated. 4 days after the interview, Dominic found himself distracted by thoughts of Olivia Reynolds. Something about her stirred memories of the masquerade. The intelligent conversation, the genuine laughter, the connection he hadn't felt with anyone else. "James," he called to his assistant, "get me everything on Olivia Reynolds from the New York Sentinel." James returned an hour later with a comprehensive file. "She's quite accomplished. Multiple journalism awards, specializes in corporate accountability reporting. Graduated top of her class at Columbia." Dominic examined her published articles, impressed by her incisive analysis and ethical stance. Unlike many journalists who sought sensationalism, Olivia pursued substantive stories with real-world impact. She requested additional financial documents regarding the Vitalis acquisition, James added. "Our legal team advised against it." Dominic frowned. "Send them to her anyway." "Sir? Those documents could raise questions about." "I know. Send them." Dominic turned to the window, his reflections staring back at him. "And arrange another meeting with Ms. Reynolds. Tell her I'd like to discuss her findings." Later that evening, Dominic sat in his penthouse reviewing the night of the masquerade. He had introduced himself as Michael, his middle name. They had agreed to keep their identities secret, part of the evening's allure. Yet now, faced with the possibility that Sophia was actually Olivia Reynolds, investigating his company, the coincidence seemed too extraordinary. His phone rang, Victoria Westbrook again. He declined the call, then opened his laptop to look at Olivia's social media profiles. Something caught his eye, a recent post mentioning a doctor's appointment. The comments below included congratulations from friends. Dominic's heart raced. Could she be pregnant? The timing would align with their encounter. He calculated backwards. Almost 3 months had passed since the masquerade. If his suspicions were correct, everything was about to change. A child, his child, would alter his carefully structured world. The very thought both terrified and strangely exhilarated him. Olivia stared at her computer screen, analyzing the financial documents Blackwood Enterprises had unexpectedly provided. The numbers didn't add up. Blackwood had paid nearly double Vitalis Pharmaceuticals' market value, and certain research expenditures were oddly categorized. "They're hiding something," she murmured, rubbing her growing belly. At 14 weeks, her pregnancy remained invisible beneath loose clothing, but morning sickness had given way to constant hunger and fatigue. Her phone lit up with a text from her doctor. Test results confirmed. All 3 babies developing normally. Triplets. The reality still stunned her. She'd begun hunting for a larger apartment, stretching her budget to its limits. Her editor had been surprisingly supportive after her disclosure, arranging flexible hours and remote work options. "Reynolds," Marco called across the newsroom. Blackwood's office called. "He wants another meeting tomorrow." Olivia's pulse quickened. "Did they say why?" "Something about discussing your initial findings. This is unusual, SOs don't typically follow up personally." That evening, Olivia's apartment buzzed with activity as her best friend, Zoe, helped sort baby essentials. "You really have no way to contact the father?" Zoe asked, folding miniature onesies. Olivia hesitated, then shared her suspicion. I think it might be Dominic Blackwood." Zoe dropped the stack of clothing. "The billionaire? The one you're investigating? Are you serious?" "The timing fits, and when we met, there was this moment of recognition." Olivia sighed. "It sounds crazy, I know. If you're right, these babies will be heirs to one of the largest fortunes in the country." "This isn't about money," Olivia insisted. "Besides, I can't just accuse him without proof. And even if he is the father, what then? I'm investigating potential wrongdoing at his company." "Your journalistic integrity versus the father of your children," Zoe said softly. "That's quite the ethical dilemma." Olivia placed a hand on her belly. "My priority is these 3. Whatever happens with Blackwood or the story, I'll figure it out." Dominic's office felt different today, less formal, with afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows and 2 cups of tea placed on the coffee table rather than the imposing desk. "Ms. Reynolds," he greeted her, his gaze lingering. "Thank you for coming." "Your financial documents raised several questions," Olivia began professionally, opening her notebook. "Particularly regarding the valuation methodology for Vitalis." Before we discuss that, Dominic interrupted gently, may I ask you something personal? Olivia tensed. That depends on the question. Were you at the Renaissance Hotel charity masquerade 3 months ago? The direct question caught her off guard. Her journalistic training had prepared her for many situations, but not this one. She could lie, but something in his expression stopped her. Yes, she admitted. I was. And did you meet someone there? Someone who called himself Michael? Olivia's heart pounded so loudly she was certain he could hear it. Why are you asking me this, Mr. Blackwood? Because I was that someone, he said quietly. And I believe you introduced yourself as Sophia. The confirmation of her suspicions left her momentarily speechless. Memories from that night flooded back. The connection, the passion, the intimacy they had shared. Why didn't you say anything during our first interview? She finally asked. I wasn't certain until I saw you again today. There's something about your eyes. He moved closer. Why did you leave without saying goodbye? That was the agreement. One night, no strings attached. Olivia gathered her courage. But circumstances have changed. Are you pregnant? The directness of his question startled her. Olivia met his gaze steadily. Yes. His expression shifted through shock, disbelief, and something indefinable. Is it? Are you certain it's yours? And there's more. She took a deep breath. It's triplets. Dominic sank into the nearest chair, his composure momentarily shattered. Triplets, he repeated, his voice barely audible. The silence stretched between them, heavy with implications. Finally, he looked up, his eyes revealing vulnerability she wouldn't have expected from such a powerful man. I need to process this, he said finally. But whatever happens, I want you to know I'll support you, financially, emotionally, however you need. I don't want your money, Olivia replied firmly. And this doesn't change my investigation. If Blackwood Enterprises is involved in something unethical with Vitalis, I will report it. A flicker of respect crossed his face. I wouldn't expect anything less. He hesitated. Would you have dinner with me tonight? Not as a journalist and CEO, but as Olivia and Dominic, two people who need to figure out what happens next. As she nodded her agreement, Olivia wondered how she could possibly balance the story of a lifetime with the father of her children being its subject. The line between personal and professional had never been so blurred. The private dining room at Lucian's overlooked Central Park, its intimate setting a stark contrast to their previous professional encounters. Dominic had arranged everything, a secluded table, discreet staff, and security to ensure their privacy. Olivia arrived in a simple black dress that subtly accommodated her changing body. Despite her professional composure, nervousness fluttered in her chest as she faced the man who was both her investigation subject and her baby's father. Thank you for coming, Dominic said, rising to greet her. Without the formality of his office, he seemed different, less the untouchable billionaire and more the charming stranger she'd met at the masquerade. After ordering, an awkward silence settled between them until Olivia spoke. This is surreal. 3 months ago, we were strangers in masks. And now we're having 3 children together, Dominic completed, his expression a mixture of wonder and concern. How are you feeling? Physically, I mean. Tired, hungry, occasionally terrified, she admitted. My doctor says everything looks healthy so far. Their conversation gradually eased as they shared details of their lives. Dominic spoke about growing up with expectations to continue his family legacy, losing his parents, and the isolation that came with his position. Olivia described her middle-class upbringing in Brooklyn, her passion for journalism, and her parents' deaths that left her essentially alone. May I ask you something personal? Dominic leaned forward. Why did you become a journalist? To give voice to those who don't have one, she answered without hesitation. My father worked for a manufacturing company that knowingly exposed workers to toxic chemicals. When he developed cancer, no one would report the story. That's when I decided what I wanted to do with my life. Understanding dawned in his eyes. That's why the Vitalis investigation matters so much to you. People deserve to know the truth, she said simply. Dominic nodded, then reached for her hand across the table. What do we do about us? About the babies? I don't know, Olivia admitted. This isn't exactly a conventional situation. Nothing in my life has ever been conventional, he replied with a half-smile. But I want to be involved. Fully involved. Not just financially. As dessert arrived, Dominic's phone buzzed repeatedly. He glanced at it with a frown. Problem? Olivia asked. There's a situation at the office. I'm sorry, but I need to take this. He stepped away, speaking in hushed tones. When he returned, his expression had hardened back into the CEO she recognized from their first meeting. Everything okay? She asked. Just business, he replied too quickly. Where were we? Right? Our future. I'd like to see you again, Olivia. Not just to discuss the babies, but because I want to know you. The real you, not just the woman from the masquerade or the journalist investigating my company. His words warmed her, even as the journalist in her noted his sudden tension. Whatever that call had been about, it wasn't just business. The following week brought a whirlwind of changes. Dominic sent a team of specialists to help Olivia find a suitable apartment, despite her protestations. They settled on a spacious 3-bedroom in a secure building not far from her office. I can't afford this, she insisted during their third dinner together. Consider it my contribution to our children's well-being, he countered. Your independence remains intact. Their relationship progressed cautiously. Dominic attended her 16-week ultrasound, his composure cracking when the technician pointed out 3 distinct heartbeats. His hand found hers, squeezing tightly as they watched their children move on the screen. Meanwhile, Olivia's investigation continued. The documents Dominic had provided revealed questionable practices, but nothing definitively illegal. Her editor grew impatient. Either there's a story here or there isn't, Marco pressed. Your deadline is approaching. Returning to her office, Olivia found a sealed envelope on her desk with no marking. Inside was a flash drive and a note. Look deeper. B-Labs, Sublevel 3. The drive contained internal Vitali's communications about a classified research project housed at their Brooklyn facility, specifically in a restricted area designated B-Labs. The emails referenced accelerated human trials and containment protocols for unexpected outcomes. That evening, as she showed Dominic the nursery furniture she'd selected, her phone rang. An anonymous caller. Ms. Reynolds? I worked at Vitali's. What they're doing in B-Labs, people are getting hurt. The Blackwood acquisition is covering it up. Who is this? Olivia asked, but the line went dead. Dominic noticed her expression. What's wrong? She hesitated, torn between her growing feelings for him and her professional obligation. It's about Vitali's. I've received information suggesting illegal human testing at their Brooklyn facility. His face darkened. What kind of information? Enough to warrant further investigation, she replied carefully. Olivia, he said slowly, whatever you think is happening at Vitali's, I assure you Blackwood Enterprises conducts thorough ethics reviews of all acquisitions. Then you wouldn't object to me looking into these allegations? Their eyes locked in silent challenge. The warm intimacy of moments before evaporated. Of course not, he finally said. But be careful. Corporate espionage is common in our industry. Not every anonymous tip is reliable. That night, after Dominic left, Olivia received another call. Tomorrow night. Employee entrance. Security changes shifts at 10 p.m. Someone will meet you. She placed a protective hand over her growing belly. The rational choice would be to stay away, to protect herself and her babies. But the journalist in her couldn't ignore what might be happening at Vitali's, especially if Dominic's company was complicit. Victoria Westbrook swept into Dominic's office unannounced, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floor. James tried to intercept her, but she brushed past him with practiced ease. Dominic, darling. We need to talk. Dominic looked up from his computer, annoyance evident. I'm busy, Victoria. She settled into the chair opposite his desk, crossing her legs elegantly. Too busy for the woman whose family owns 30% of Vitali's pharmaceuticals? The acquisition you're so desperate to complete. What do you want? I want to know why you're seeing that reporter, Victoria replied coolly. The one asking questions about Vitalis. It's reckless, even for you. Dominic's expression remained neutral. My personal life isn't your concern. It is when it threatens our business interests. She leaned forward. That woman is pregnant with your children. Yes, I know all about it. Did you think you could keep it secret? How did you? I have my sources, Victoria interrupted. What matters is the risk she poses. If she discovers what's happening at B-Labs before the acquisition is complete, both our families lose billions. Dominic's jaw tightened. I was assured everything at Vitalis was legitimate. Victoria's laugh lacked humor. Don't play naive, Dominic. You knew exactly what you were buying. Breakthrough research that would revolutionize medicine and make us all obscenely wealthy. The methods are unfortunate necessities. If people are being harmed, people volunteer for those trials, she countered. They signed waivers. Did they understand what they were signing? Victoria stood, smoothing her skirt. Here's what will happen. You'll end things with the reporter. Our companies will complete the merger. Everyone profits. Her smile turned cold. Otherwise, I'll ensure the blame for any Vitalis misconduct falls squarely on Blackwood Enterprises. Your company. Your reputation. Your legacy. After she left, Dominic called his head of security. I need everything on B-Labs at Vitalis Pharmaceuticals. And put additional protection on Olivia Reynolds immediately. Meanwhile, Olivia stood outside the Vitalis facility in Brooklyn, collar turned up against the cold. At precisely 10 p.m., a side door opened. A thin man in a lab coat beckoned her inside. Dr. Bennett. He introduced himself hurriedly. We don't have much time. He led her through sterile corridors to a security elevator, using his badge to access sublevel 3. What I'm about to show you violates every ethical standard in medicine. These patients came for routine treatment. What they received instead. The elevator doors opened to reveal a hospital-like ward. Through observation windows, Olivia saw patients in various states of distress, some with physical abnormalities that made her stomach clench. They're testing gene therapy without proper protocols, Dr. Bennett whispered. The successful cases become miracle drugs. The failures become this. Olivia took photos discreetly, her heart racing. Does Blackwood know? Before Bennett could answer, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security doors slammed shut, trapping them in the corridor as red lights flashed. We've been detected, Bennett said, panic rising in his voice. We need to get out now. This way. Dr. Bennett grabbed Olivia's arm, pulling her toward an emergency stairwell as security guards' footsteps echoed down the adjacent corridor. What happens if they catch us? Olivia asked, struggling to keep pace despite her pregnancy. Best case? They confiscate your evidence and fire me. His expression darkened. Worst case doesn't bear thinking about. They descended 2 flights before voices above forced them to exit onto a dimly lit floor. Laboratory equipment filled the room, alongside computers displaying complex molecular structures. The research data, Bennett whispered, hastily transferring files onto a thumb drive. This proves everything. Unauthorized human testing, falsified safety reports, suppressed negative outcomes. Olivia photographed the screens rapidly. The acquisition paperwork showed Blackwood Enterprises conducted due diligence reviews. They must have known. The Westbrook family controls Vitalis. They're experts at hiding uncomfortable truths. Bennett handed her the drive. Victoria Westbrook personally oversees B-Labs. Her family needs Blackwood's resources to expand their research globally. Security badges beeped at the main entrance. Without warning, Bennett shoved Olivia into a supply closet. Stay silent, he whispered before closing the door. Through the thin gap, Olivia watched as security personnel surrounded Bennett. Where is she? A guard demanded. Who? Bennett replied calmly. The pregnant woman on the cameras. The reporter. I came alone to collect my personal items after my termination, Bennett responded. Check my badge, I was authorized to clear out today. The head guard examined his credentials. Search the floor, he ordered the others. Olivia pressed deeper into the closet, heart pounding. one hand protectively covering her belly. If caught, she risked not only her safety but her baby's as well. She'd been reckless coming here. The closet door rattled as someone tested the handle. Locked, thankfully. Footsteps moved away as the search continued elsewhere. Minutes later, the door opened slightly. Bennett's face appeared. Service elevator at the end of the hall. Take it to the loading dock. My car's waiting, red Honda, keys under the mat. Go now. What about you? I'll create a distraction. Go. Olivia slipped out, following his directions, the evidence secured in her pocket. The service elevator hummed quietly as it descended to the loading area where, as promised, a red Honda sat unattended. She found the keys, started the engine, and drove away from Vitaly's, adrenaline still surging through her body. Only when she reached a safe distance did she notice the missed calls on her phone, all from Dominic. Her hands trembled as she pulled over, uncertain whether to return his calls. Did he know where she'd been? Was he involved in what she'd uncovered? As she debated, a text appeared. Are you safe? Please confirm location. Security team en route. How did he know? Before she could respond, headlights appeared in her rearview mirror, a black SUV approaching rapidly. 20 minutes earlier, Dominic had been reviewing acquisition documents when his security chief entered without knocking. Sir, we have a situation. Ms. Reynolds entered the Vitaly's Brooklyn facility unauthorized. Security protocols have been activated. Dominic stood abruptly. What? How do you know this? The protection detail you assigned reported her movements. She entered with someone identified as Dr. Alan Bennett, recently terminated from Vitaly's. Cold dread washed over Dominic. After Victoria's visit, he'd initiated his own investigation into B-Labs, uncovering disturbing inconsistencies. His legal team was still analyzing the findings, but one thing had become clear. The Westbrook family had deliberately concealed critical information during acquisition negotiations. Where is she now? Last visual confirmation showed her entering the restricted research levels. Facility security is conducting a search. Dominic grabbed his coat. Get the helicopter ready. I want a full security team at that facility in 10 minutes. During the short flight to Brooklyn, Dominic paced the helicopter cabin, his mind racing. If Victoria discovered Olivia at the facility, she wouldn't hesitate to neutralize the threat. The woman he'd once been engaged to had revealed herself to be ruthlessly pragmatic about protecting family interests. Sir, his security chief reported, facility cameras show Dr. Bennett being detained, but no sign of Ms. Reynolds. Wait, there's movement at the loading dock. A red Honda leaving the premises. Track it, Dominic ordered. And connect me to facility security. The facility security director answered immediately. Mr. Blackwood, this is unexpected. Release Dr. Bennett immediately, Dominic commanded. And cease your search operations. Anyone who touches either Dr. Bennett or Olivia Reynolds will answer directly to me. Sir, we have protocols. Your protocols are now superseded by my authority as majority shareholder of your parent company. Is that clear? When the helicopter landed near the Vitaly's complex, Dominic received confirmation that Bennett had been released. However, the red Honda's tracking showed it had stopped in a residential area. She's not answering my calls, Dominic told his team. Send a security vehicle to her location, but maintain distance. I'll approach alone. As his SUV approached the parked Honda, Dominic could see Olivia's silhouette in the driver's seat. His relief at finding her safe quickly gave way to apprehension about the confrontation to come. How could he explain his connection to Vitaly's without losing her trust completely? The look on her face when he tapped on her window confirmed his fears, suspicion mingled with betrayal. She rolled down the window just enough to speak. Did you know? She asked, her voice steady despite the circumstances. Not everything, he answered truthfully. May I join you? There's much to explain, and this isn't the place. After a moment's hesitation, she unlocked the passenger door. As he settled beside her, Dominic noticed her hand protectively covering her stomach, a gesture that pierced his heart with its vulnerability and accusation. Were you following me? Olivia demanded once they were seated in a 24-hour diner, the location she had insisted upon. Public, neutral ground. I assigned security to protect you after our conversation about Vitalis, Dominic admitted. Given what I've learned, I'm glad I did. What exactly have you learned, Dominic? That your business partners conduct illegal human experiments? That people are suffering while corporations profit? Her intensity reminded him of their first night together, the passionate, principled woman behind the mask. Even angry and suspicious, she was remarkable. 3 weeks ago, I received the first reports suggesting irregularities at Vitalis, he explained. The acquisition due diligence showed nothing concerning, but I now believe those reports were falsified. By whom? The Westbrook family. Victoria's father created Vitalis, and she oversees their research division. Olivia's eyes narrowed. Victoria Westbrook, your ex-fiancée? Yes. Our engagement was largely a business arrangement, joining two family empires. I ended it months before I met you. That's not reassuring, Olivia countered. You were willing to marry someone for business advantages. How do I know you're not protecting your investment now? Dominic leaned forward. The evidence you collected tonight, I want you to publish it. Her surprise was evident. What? Publish everything. My legal team will provide additional documentation proving the Westbrooks concealed information during our negotiations. They need to be held accountable. This could cost your company billions, Olivia noted cautiously. I don't care. Dominic's voice was firm. When I saw those missed calls from you tonight, when I thought you might be in danger. He paused, emotion threatening to overwhelm his usual control. Money means nothing compared to your safety and the babies. Olivia studied him, journalist's skepticism warring with personal feelings. Why should I trust you? You kept your connection to Vitalis hidden even after I told you about my investigation. Because I needed to understand what was happening first, he replied. Because business has taught me to verify before acting. That was wrong. I should have shared my concerns immediately. The waitress refilled their coffee cups, giving Dominic a moment to collect his thoughts. Olivia, I've spent my adult life building walls to protect myself after losing my parents. The night we met, for the first time in years, I felt a genuine connection with someone who saw me, not my wealth or position, just me. He reached for her hand across the table. I'm not asking you to abandon your principles or your story. I'm asking for a chance to make this right, not just professionally, but personally. Her expression softened slightly. I need time to think. Of course. But there's something else you should know. Victoria threatened you today. She knows about the pregnancy. His jaw tightened. I won't let her harm you or our children, but we need to be careful. This just became much more dangerous. Olivia's hand moved protectively to her stomach again. What do we do now? We fight back, together. The next morning, Olivia woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains. After their confrontation, Dominic had insisted she stay at his secure penthouse while they formulated a plan. Despite her initial protests, concern for her baby's safety had overruled her independence. In the kitchen, she found Dominic on a video call with his legal team, his voice carrying the unmistakable authority of a man accustomed to command. I want every document related to the Vitalis acquisition reviewed by noon. Focus on approvals for the B-Lab's protocols. He looked up, noticing Olivia, and his expression softened. I'll call back later. Sorry to interrupt, she said, accepting the cup of decaf coffee he offered. How did you sleep? Better than expected, she admitted. What's the plan for today? Dominic gestured to the dining table where laptops, documents, and several phones were arranged with military precision. We combine our evidence. Your journalistic findings and Bennett's data, plus my company's internal reviews. They spent the morning working side by side, Olivia crafting her exposé while Dominic's team assembled documentation proving the Westbrooks had deliberately misled Blackwood Enterprises during acquisition negotiations. Your article is exceptional, Dominic noted, reading her draft. Clear, compelling, and damning without being sensationalist. Years of practice, she replied with a small smile. But we're still missing a crucial piece, direct testimony from affected patients. As if on cue, Dominic's phone rang. Bennett's been contacted by 3 former test subjects willing to go on record, he reported after the call. They'll meet us this afternoon. While they worked, Olivia observed Dominic with new eyes. The ruthless CEO had been replaced by a man whose moral compass aligned surprisingly well with her own. He made decisions quickly but thoughtfully, showing genuine concern for the patients harmed by Vitalis. "Why did you become a businessman?" she asked during a break. "You could have done anything." Dominic paused, considering. "After my parents died, preserving their legacy seemed vital. But over time, I discovered I had talent for it, seeing possibilities others missed, creating solutions to complex problems." He smiled ruefully. "What I never expected was how isolated success would make me feel. How difficult it would become to know who to trust." His vulnerability touched her. This was the man she'd connected with at the masquerade, thoughtful, complex, and surprisingly human beneath his powerful exterior. By late afternoon, they had compiled comprehensive evidence against Vitalis and the Westbrooks. The patient testimonies, emotional and disturbing, added human faces to the corporate wrongdoing. As Olivia finalized her article, ready for publication the next morning, Dominic received an urgent call from his security team. "Sir, there's unusual activity at Vitalis Brooklyn. Large data transfers, document shredding. Systems being wiped." "They know," Dominic said, meeting Olivia's eyes. "Victoria's destroying evidence." "We need to move up publication," Olivia decided, immediately contacting her editor. "Tonight, not tomorrow." As they accelerated their timeline, neither noticed the black sedan parked across the street, watching the building with patient, predatory focus. Victoria Westbrook reviewed the surveillance footage of Olivia entering Vitalis with cold fury. Everything she'd built was threatened by this journalist and Dominic's inexplicable attachment to her. "Find everything on Olivia Reynolds," she instructed her private security director. "Weaknesses, vulnerabilities, pressure points." The comprehensive report arrived within hours. Orphaned, career-focused, principled to a fault, and carrying Dominic's children, triplets, according to her medical records. Victoria's lips curved into a calculated smile. Perfect. While Olivia's article went live that evening, instantly igniting a firestorm across news outlets and financial markets, Victoria executed her countermove. An anonymous tip led federal agents to financial records suggesting Blackwood Enterprises had not only known about the Vitalis experiments but had actively funded them from the beginning. "The evidence is fabricated," Dominic insisted when the allegations surfaced, but damage control consumed precious hours as they fought this new front. Meanwhile, Victoria called an emergency Vitalis board meeting, portraying herself as the whistleblower who had uncovered the rogue research division once Blackwood's investment provided access. "I'm shocked and appalled by what we discovered," she told assembled reporters, her performance flawless. Blackwood Enterprises pushed for accelerated results regardless of ethical considerations. "When I objected, Dominic Blackwood threatened my family's interests. The calculated misdirection worked. By morning, Blackwood's stock had plummeted 20%. Regulatory agencies announced investigations into both companies, but public opinion had already cast Dominic as the villain. In the penthouse, Olivia watched Victoria's press conference with growing alarm. "She's reshaping the narrative, making you the scapegoat." Dominic nodded grimly. "Victoria excels at manipulation. We need Bennett and the other witnesses to counter her claims." But when they tried contacting Bennett, they discovered he'd disappeared. The other witnesses suddenly refused to speak, citing legal concerns. "She got to them," Dominic concluded. "Threats or bribes, either way, we've lost key testimony." As they strategized their response, Olivia's phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. The message contained only an image, a clear photograph of her doctor's office building, and 2 words, "Choose wisely." Moments later, Dominic received a call from Victoria. "Impressive article," she began without preamble. "Unfortunately, its accuracy is already being questioned. Such a shame when journalists let personal relationships cloud their judgment." "What do you want?" Dominic demanded. A simple trade. You publicly take responsibility for the Vitalis situation, a regrettable oversight during acquisition, perhaps. In exchange, your journalist and your unborn children remain safe. If you threaten them, don't be dramatic, Dominic. I'm offering a business solution. Your company survives with minimal damage. I retain control of Vitalis under new management. Everyone wins. Her voice hardened. Refuse, and I release documentation proving you personally authorized the experiments. Your company collapses, your reputation is destroyed, and your children grow up with a disgraced father, assuming their mother's stress doesn't create complications. The threat hung between them, monstrous in its calculation. You have until midnight, Victoria concluded. Choose wisely. Rain lashed against the windows as Olivia and Dominic arrived at the Westbrook estate outside the city. The sprawling mansion stood illuminated against the stormy night, a monument to generations of wealth and influence. This is dangerous, Olivia said as their car approached the security gate. Her hand rested protectively on her 5-month belly. We should have involved the authorities. Victoria has too many connections, Dominic replied. We need her confession first. Their plan was audacious, perhaps desperate. After receiving Victoria's ultimatum, they had tracked down Dr. Bennett hiding at his sister's home upstate. With his help, they uncovered something even Victoria didn't know. Her father had kept separate records of all Vitalis' research, including video documentation of Victoria personally approving the B-Lab's protocols. The key to accessing these records was in the elder Westbrook's private safe at the family estate. Bennett had provided the combination, obtained during years as the old man's trusted physician. Security waved them through. Victoria was expecting Dominic to surrender, not realizing Olivia would accompany him. They were escorted to a cavernous library where Victoria waited, elegant in black, a champagne flute in hand. Dominic, she greeted coolly. I didn't expect you to bring your journalist. The word dripped with disdain. Olivia deserved to hear my decision directly, Dominic replied. After all, it affects her future as well. Victoria's calculating smile never reached her eyes. How thoughtful. And what have you decided? Before I answer, I'd like to understand exactly what happened at B-Labs, Dominic said, moving casually toward the far wall where an antique portrait of Victoria's father concealed the safe. How deeply were you involved? I supervised from a distance, Victoria claimed smoothly. The research division operated with considerable autonomy. Olivia stepped forward, recorder discreetly activated in her pocket. That contradicts what Dr. Bennett told us. He said you personally selected test subjects and reviewed all protocols. Victoria's expression hardened. Bennett is attempting to save himself by shifting blame. Then you deny authorizing human trials without proper consent? Dominic pressed, now positioned directly before the hidden safe. What I authorized was accelerated testing within legal parameters. Victoria snapped, her composure cracking slightly. The potential benefits justified aggressive research methods. My father understood this. Building medical empires requires certain ethical flexibilities. Would you say the same thing if it was your child being experimented on? Olivia asked quietly. Victoria laughed coldly. People like us don't become test subjects, Ms. Reynolds. That's the privilege of power. While Victoria's attention focused on Olivia, Dominic slid the painting aside and quickly worked the safe's combination. The door opened silently, revealing stacks of documents and a hard drive, exactly where Bennett had indicated. Looking for something? Victoria's voice cut through the room as she raised a small handgun. Step away from the safe, Dominic. The weapon pointed steadily at Olivia's midsection. I offered you a reasonable solution. Now I'll have to handle this mess myself. Time seemed to freeze as Victoria's gun remained trained on Olivia's pregnant belly, her finger hovering near the trigger. Think about what you're doing, Dominic said, his voice calm despite the terror gripping his heart. This isn't a corporate takeover, Victoria. This is attempted murder. It's survival, she countered coldly. Your journalist has already destroyed Vitalis' reputation. My family's legacy is crumbling because you chose her over our arrangement. Olivia stood perfectly still, one hand protectively curved around her stomach. The truth was going to come out eventually. Those patients deserved justice. Victoria's laugh was hollow. Justice? Do you know how many medical breakthroughs happened because researchers pushed boundaries? History remembers the cures, not how we achieved them. While Victoria focused on justifying herself, Dominic inched toward the desk where he'd placed the hard drive. Her gaze snapped back to him. "Stop right there," she ordered. "You won't shoot," Dominic said with calculated confidence. "You're too intelligent for that. Murder charges would destroy everything you're trying to protect." "Who said anything about murder?" Victoria's smile turned cruel. "A tragic accident during a heated confrontation, that's all this would be. The stress causing pregnancy complications would be most unfortunate." Olivia's voice cut through the tension. "We're not the only ones who know the truth, Victoria." She nodded toward the entrance where security cameras monitored the room. "Everything you've just said is being recorded and transmitted to multiple locations." Victoria's eyes darted to the cameras. "My security system was temporarily overridden when we arrived," Dominic finished. "A precaution arranged with help from your father's former head of security. He was quite cooperative after learning what happened at B-Labs." Doubt flickered across Victoria's face for the first time. Her hand trembled slightly. In that moment of hesitation, the library doors burst open. James, Dominic's assistant, entered with 2 federal agents. "Victoria Westbrook," one agent announced, "we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of fraud, racketeering, and criminal negligence." Victoria's composure cracked completely. "This is absurd. My family built this company. And you betrayed everything it stood for," Dominic said quietly, taking the gun from her now limp hand. As the agents led Victoria away, Dominic rushed to Olivia's side. "Are you all right? The babies?" She nodded, trembling now that the danger had passed. "We're okay." He pulled her gently into his arms, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I never should have brought you here." "We needed to end this," she replied, finding strength despite her fear. "For those patients. For our children." As they left the mansion, rain still pouring around them, Dominic kept Olivia close under the shelter of his coat. The hard drive secure in his pocket contained everything they needed to completely expose the truth, and to begin rebuilding their lives from the wreckage Victoria had created. The following weeks unfolded in a whirlwind of legal proceedings, press conferences, and corporate restructuring. Victoria faced multiple federal charges, while Vitalis Pharmaceuticals was placed under court-appointed management pending a complete investigation. Dominic had publicly addressed the scandal, taking responsibility for his company's failure to detect the deception while providing evidence that cleared him of direct involvement. Blackwood Enterprises suffered significant financial losses, but his transparent handling of the crisis began slowly rebuilding public trust. Olivia's exposé received national recognition. Several prestigious journalism awards committees had contacted her, but she found herself unexpectedly ambivalent about the attention. "You should be proud," Dominic told her one evening as they sat on the terrace of his penthouse, watching the city lights. At 6 months pregnant, Olivia had reluctantly agreed to move in temporarily, prioritizing security and comfort as her pregnancy advanced. "I am," she replied thoughtfully. "But something has changed. Before, the story was everything. Now." Her hands rested on her growing belly where one of the triplets kicked energetically. "Now there's more to consider?" he suggested. "Exactly." She turned to face him. "I'm not giving up journalism, but perhaps investigative work requiring midnight break-ins to pharmaceutical labs should wait until after the babies arrive." Dominic laughed softly, taking her hand. Over the weeks of crisis, their relationship had deepened beyond their initial connection. Working side by side against Victoria had forged a partnership built on respect and growing trust. "I've been thinking about the future," he said carefully. "About us." "Have you?" Olivia's expression remained neutral, though her pulse quickened. "I've restructured Blackwood Enterprises, created an ethics division with actual authority, established a foundation to compensate the Vitalis victims." He paused. But none of that matters compared to what I want to build with you and our children. And what's that? A family, he said simply. Not a business arrangement or a convenient solution to an unexpected situation. A real family based on love and trust. Olivia studied him, the man who had begun as a mysterious stranger and now felt essential to her future. Are you proposing? Not yet, he answered honestly. When I do, I want it to be perfect, not because of circumstances or babies or corporate scandals. I want you to know it's because I've fallen completely in love with you. Her breath caught. He hadn't said those words before. Dominic. You don't need to say anything now, he assured her quickly. We have time. I just wanted you to know where I stand. Olivia leaned forward and kissed him softly. I'm falling in love with you too, she whispered against his lips, despite my best journalistic objectivity. As they sat together watching the city below, Olivia felt the babies moving within her. Their unexpected beginning had evolved into something neither of them had anticipated but both now embraced, a partnership forged through crisis, built on honesty, and growing stronger each day. Push, Olivia. They're almost here. 4 months later, Olivia gripped Dominic's hand with surprising strength as she fought through another contraction. The delivery room buzzed with activity. 3 separate medical teams stood ready to receive each baby. I see the first one, the doctor announced. One more big push. Moments later, a tiny cry filled the room as their first daughter entered the world. Within 12 minutes, her 2 brothers followed, all 3 remarkably healthy despite being born 4 weeks early. Dominic watched in awe as the nurses cleaned and evaluated each infant. They're perfect, he whispered, tears streaming unashamedly down his face. Later, in the recovery room, Olivia held their daughter while Dominic cradled both sons, one in each arm. The wonder on his face as he gazed at their tiny features made her heart swell. We need names, she reminded him gently. They had discussed options but waited to meet their children first. Looking at their daughter's determined expression, already so like her mother's, Dominic smiled. Sophia, he suggested, after your middle name you used at the masquerade, where our story began. Olivia nodded, emotion tightening her throat. For our sons, Michael, after your middle name. She paused. And for our second son, perhaps Robert, after my father? Sophia, Michael, and Robert. Dominic tested the names, feeling their rightness. Perfect. 3 months later, they stood together in the newly completed nursery of their home, not Dominic's penthouse but a brownstone they had chosen together, balancing security with warmth. Blackwood Enterprises had emerged from the scandal transformed. Dominic had implemented sweeping changes, creating a corporate structure focused on ethical practices and transparency. The foundation for victims of pharmaceutical testing had become his personal mission, with Olivia contributing her investigative skills to help identify and support those affected. She had returned to journalism part-time, writing a column on corporate ethics while working on a book about the Vitalis case. Her perspective had evolved. She still sought truth, but now understood the complex human realities behind corporate facades. As they stood watching their sleeping babies, Dominic slipped his arm around her waist. Regrets? He asked softly. Olivia considered the question seriously. Her life had transformed completely from that night at the masquerade. Her career had shifted, her independence had adjusted to partnership, and 3 tiny humans now depended on her completely. Not one, she answered truthfully. Though I never imagined a masked encounter would lead to all this. Dominic smiled, reaching into his pocket. Speaking of unexpected journeys, he opened his hand to reveal a diamond ring, elegant and unique, like the woman he offered it to. Journalism taught me to ask the important questions, Olivia said, eyes shining as she accepted the ring. So yes, Dominic Blackwood, I will marry you. As they sealed their promise with a kiss, the triplets slept peacefully nearby, living symbols of how life's most profound chapters often begin with unexpected encounters, how truth comes in many forms, and how love, when built on honesty and respect, can transform even the most uncertain beginnings into something beautiful. Laughter echoed through Central Park as 5-year-old Sophia Blackwood raced ahead of her brothers on sturdy legs, her chestnut hair streaming behind her. "Slow down, young lady," Olivia called, pushing an empty stroller while keeping a watchful eye on Michael and Robert, who followed their sister with determined expressions. From a nearby bench, Dominic watched his family with undisguised joy. 5 years had transformed them all. The triplets had grown from tiny, fragile newborns into vibrant kindergartners with distinct personalities. Sophia, fearless and inquisitive; Michael, thoughtful and observant; Robert, compassionate and creative. "Daddy, watch this," Sophia called before attempting a wobbly cartwheel that ended with her tumbling onto the grass. Rather than crying, she jumped up and tried again, persistence inherited from both parents. "She's exactly like you," Dominic told Olivia as she sat beside him, both boys climbing onto their laps. "Unstoppable once she sets her mind to something." "With your negotiation skills," Olivia added. "Yesterday she convinced Michael to trade his cookie for a broken crayon." Dominic laughed, arms settling comfortably around his wife's shoulders. Their wedding 3 years earlier had been intimate, just family and close friends. They had exchanged vows at midnight, a nod to their masquerade meeting, this time with faces uncovered and hearts fully revealed. Life had found its rhythm. Dominic continued to lead Blackwood Enterprises, though with adjusted priorities that allowed him to be home for dinner most evenings and present for weekend family adventures. The company had emerged from the Vitalis scandal stronger, its reformed ethical framework becoming a model for corporate governance. Olivia had launched an independent media organization focused on corporate accountability, working flexible hours from their home office. Her book about the Vitalis case had become a bestseller and was being adapted into a limited series. More importantly, her investigation had brought justice to dozens of victims who received both compensation and proper medical care. Victoria Westbrook had been sentenced to 15 years for her crimes. The pharmaceutical industry faced increased scrutiny and regulation as a result of the case, saving countless lives from similar exploitation. As they watched their children play, Dominic squeezed Olivia's hand. "Did you ever imagine that night at the masquerade would lead to all this?" "Never," she answered honestly. "But I wouldn't change a moment of our journey." That evening, after tucking the triplets into bed with 3 separate stories, a nightly ritual Dominic never missed when in town, he found Olivia in their study reviewing documents for her latest investigation. "Still working?" he asked, bringing her a cup of tea. "Just finishing up. The pharmaceutical industry still needs watchdogs." She accepted the tea gratefully. The foundation helped another family today, former Vitalis patient whose child developed complications. The Blackwood Foundation had become their shared passion, supporting victims of medical exploitation and advocating for ethical research practices. What had begun as atonement had evolved into meaningful change, with research grants funding transparent, patient-centered medical advances. "I received a letter from Bennett today," Dominic said, referring to the doctor whose courage had helped expose Vitalis. Now heading an ethics committee at a major research hospital, Bennett had remained in their lives as both friend and advisor. "He reminded me that next month marks 5 years since the Vitalis revelations." Dominic sat beside her. "He wrote something that struck me, that our greatest achievements aren't buildings or wealth, but the lives we change and the truths we defend." Olivia nodded thoughtfully. "When I became a journalist, I believed exposing the truth was enough. Now I understand that what matters is what happens after the truth comes to light. The healing, the reform, the prevention of future harm." Their conversation was interrupted by small footsteps. Michael stood in the doorway, clutching his favorite stuffed elephant. "Can't sleep?" Dominic asked, lifting his son onto his lap. "I was thinking," the 5-year-old said with characteristic seriousness. "Teacher asked what our parents do. I said Mommy tells important stories and Daddy helps people build good things." Olivia and Dominic exchanged glances, touched by this simple distillation of their complex careers. "That's exactly right," Olivia affirmed, smoothing her son's hair. After returning Michael to bed, they stood watching their children sleep, marveling at the miracle they had created together, not just the triplets, but the life they'd built from such unlikely beginnings. 1 year later, Olivia adjusted the silver mask over her eyes, nostalgia washing over her as Dominic secured his black and gold one. "Ready for another masquerade?" he asked, offering his arm as they prepared to enter the Renaissance Hotel ballroom. 6 years to the day since their first meeting, they had returned to where it all began. This time, as co-chairs of the charity gala benefiting the Blackwood Foundation, they would openly remove their masks at midnight, a symbolic gesture accompanying their announcement of a new research initiative supporting ethical medical innovation. "Do you ever wonder about alternate paths?" Olivia asked as they paused at the entrance. "What might have happened if we hadn't met that night?" Dominic considered the question. "I believe we would have found each other eventually. Some connections are simply meant to be." As they entered the ballroom, memories of that fateful night mingled with appreciation for their present. From strangers in masks to partners in all things, their journey had taught them that love's greatest power lies in its ability to reveal our truest selves. No masks, no secrets, just authentic connection that transforms not only 2 lives but countless others through its ripple effects. From a chance encounter at a masquerade ball to building a family and legacy together, Dominic and Olivia's journey reminds us that life's most transformative moments often arrive unexpectedly. Their story teaches us that true connections can emerge in the most unlikely circumstances, and that when passion and purpose align, they create something more powerful than either could achieve alone. Behind every mask lies a person yearning to be truly seen. Behind every powerful exterior exists vulnerabilities and dreams. Olivia and Dominic found each other when they revealed their authentic selves, first to each other and then to the world. Their path wasn't easy. They faced betrayal, danger, and difficult choices. They had to reconcile personal feelings with professional ethics. Yet through honesty, courage, and unwavering commitment to truth and justice, they built not just a family but a legacy that changed countless lives. Has someone unexpected ever changed the course of your life? Have you ever had to choose between your heart and your principles? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might inspire others facing similar crossroads. If you enjoyed this tale of secrets, scandal, and true love conquering all, please hit the like button and subscribe to Love and Twilights for more captivating stories that explore the complexities of human connection. Our daily uploads feature romances with unexpected twists that will keep you coming back for more. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest stories. And if this tale of masks, mysteries, and love against all odds touched your heart, share it with someone who appreciates stories about finding truth and love in unexpected places.